Hi everybody, I'm Corey. I'm a registered dietitian and senior nutrition educator for SNAP Ed at the Community Food Bank of New Jersey. And today I have Robert Abamonte with me. He's a resource access manager at the Community Food Bank of New Jersey. And today we're going to be doing a cooking demonstration celebrating St. Patty's Day. So we have Irish sausage rolls we're going to be making for you, as well as a shamrock power smoothie. So we are in luck because Robert is a home chef. So I am excited to learn from him today. And we're going to get started with making the puff pastry for the Irish sausage rolls.
And before we get started, we're going to sanitize our hands.
Yes, we are.
All right. Okay.
And we have some gloves as well if you would like them, your choice.
Well, I washed my hands good earlier, and this is one of those recipes where you do have to kind of get in there with your hands a little bit. So as long as you're washed up and sanitized, you should be good. Okay, all right. So first thing we're going to do is we need our flour. Okay, so we're going to have, it's 2 1/3 cups of flour. Okay. And then we pre-made a little bit of ice water here with some lemon juice. So the idea of adding the lemon juice helps kind of tenderize the flour, makes the overall puff pastry a little smoother, helps it rise a little bit more too. So we're going to add a little bit of that. And we're going to have a pinch of salt. And the trick, the magic, is the frozen butter. If you freeze the butter in the puff pastry, as it cooks, it actually evaporates some of the steam, helps give you those layers in the puff pastry. Puff pastries typically take a lot of folding and folding and folding. With this quick recipe, you're able, with the frozen butter, to really get that rise in it. So we've pre-done some, so I'm going to finish off some of this butter here. So the trick that I like to use here is to use, it takes about 14 tablespoons of butter. And since the stick is 8 tablespoons, you actually can use the paper to protect you from the grater at the end. So just grate the butter right in.
And Robert, you were saying you use this puff pastry recipe for other things as well, right?
Yes, actually I did use this puff pastry, this exact one, for, it's a guava jelly with cream cheese. And you can make the same pastry, roll it out, fold those off, again brush them with a little bit of egg wash, and they make a lovely dessert.
Mm-hmm. That's nice.
Yeah.
And there's not too many ingredients in this recipe.
No, this is
puff
a
pastry recipe.
Very simple puff pastry. Now, if you were in a crunch and you didn't want to make your own homemade puff pastry, you can go buy a store-bought one. That is fine. But this one only takes about 20 minutes to make altogether. So, you know, by the time you get to the store, you might already have made up your puff pastry. Okay, again, the trick to this one is the frozen butter. So add our frozen butter.
And you just fold it in?
We're gonna, this one, it actually is easier to get your hands in there.
Okay.
Your hands are one of the best kitchen tools you have, and as long as they're clean, you should be okay. We're also gonna add a pinch of salt, or if you wanna do exact measurements, about a 1/16 of a tablespoon of salt, which is about a pinch. We're gonna add this all in. Usually about 5 to 6 ounces of water is best. You do have to kind of gauge the flour to see if it's too wet or if it's too dry. If it's a little too wet, then it can help, it can actually cause it to be a little tacky, a little sticky. So it's best to start with less and add more. So as this comes together, once we get the flour together, to keep everything cold, because we have the ice butter, we have ice water, you know, your bowl should be chilled, just to keep the butter nice and cold. After we get the flour together, we're going to pop this up back in the freezer for about 20 minutes to an hour. Now you could make that let it rest if you have time the next day to do it. Okay, mine is a little bit more.
And so the dough should be kind of like a firmer consistency.
Firmer consistency, yeah. Maybe not as tacky as, let's say, a pizza dough, more like a biscuit dough. As this comes together.
How long have you been a home chef?
So I actually started cooking at home when I was about 8 or 9 years old. You know, it was something I just kind of learned doing, you know, watching Saturday morning cartoons or Sunday morning cartoons. Back when I was younger, they only had those for a couple hours in the morning, and then afterwards they went into cooking shows and things. So I just started watching those, and by the time they were done, I was hungry, so I went and ventured into the kitchen and started cooking things up myself. Yeah. Okay, so this is coming together. What we're going to do is we're going to wrap this up.
Do you need my help?
Well, if you wouldn't mind maybe getting a piece of saran wrap.
Sure.
And again, this dough will rest for about 20 minutes to an hour and back in the fridge.
So we are gonna put this in a cooler, right? And while that is cooling for a little bit, I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the Power Shamrock smoothie. So this smoothie is what you'll need is some yogurt. You can use regular yogurt, non-fat yogurt, Greek yogurt. I have a yogurt alternative, so I have coconut yogurt here, so you could certainly use whatever your preference is. You're also going to need a banana. A trick for bananas in this smoothie is to try to freeze them ahead of time. That way you can make your smoothie nice and icy. If you are not able to do that, you can just add some ice. So either way will work. And then I have some spinach. This is going to make the smoothie nice and green and give it that St. Patty's Day color. And then we have milk. So again, you can use your preference. You can use regular milk, or I have here almond milk. You could use soy milk or oat milk, you know, whatever your preference is. So I also wanted to mention, as I'm making this smoothie, that it is National Nutrition Month. And the theme for National Nutrition Month is Fuel the Future. Nourishing your body using local and sustainable foods. So I'm really excited, especially about the Irish sausage rolls, because Robert's going to talk us through how to use herbs, and I believe you're a gardener as well, so jack of all trades.
I try, yeah.
Yeah, so definitely on topic for our National Nutrition Month. So with this recipe, the exact ingredients, or the exact so I'm just going to add that in here. And I am going to put the ice in because we want the ice to be somewhat near the blade. So. And then I am going to add the whole banana.
The idea of freezing the banana is just to keep that cool consistency. It kind of breaks down in the food processor a little bit easier as you go through it.
Exactly. Some yogurt. It's about half a cup to a cup. And then we have our almond milk. So you definitely need a liquid. If you didn't want to use the milk, you could always use water. So we have fruit, vegetables. If you were using regular yogurt, you would have some dairy in there, which would give you a little bit of extra protein. You could actually, if you were using a non-dairy yogurt, which we are today, you could also add peanut butter, which would give it a little extra kick of protein. You could add a protein powder if you wanted to. So this recipe you could definitely modify. I am going to add a little bit of mint. So I'm just going to pick these off. And this is going to give it that minty flavor. And then now we're just going to brace for noise. spinach, you can keep going if you're at home and get it to the consistency that you want it.
This is a good way to hide vegetables from your children too. Those who have kids, maybe fussy eaters, they don't like to eat green things. This may be a good way with that banana flavor in there. Kind of sneaks in those veggies for you.
Yep, absolutely. I am gonna top it with some chocolate chips and some coconut flakes, just to kind of give it a little pizzazz. And then we're gonna garnish it with some mince breaks.
Looks delicious.
And there you have it. Here you go. Cheers. Happy St.
Cheers.
Patty's
Happy
Day.
St. Patrick's.
You can taste the mint.
That's good. I love the banana flavor that comes through. It definitely helps cover that spinach up for any of those fussy eaters. The banana really pops in there. That's delicious.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay, so we can keep it moving with, we're going back to the Irish sausage rolls.
Okay. Now that our dough is kind of sat for a few minutes and kind of firmed back up, I'm going to pass this. Corey's going to, in a moment, help me roll that out. So we want to roll that out to about a 12 by 8, 12 by 10 sheet. Does not have to be perfect. We'll fix it once we do the roll part. So I'm going to start doing the mix here with the sausage. So I have about 1 pound of sausage. I have 1 medium onion chopped. Okay. Just dump that in there. Trick with onions, I always find I love my mandolin. It helps me give nice consistent sizing, and then I can chop it fine. But do be careful with your mandolins, they are very sharp. We're also going to add some breadcrumb. This is about 3/4 of a cup of breadcrumb. The breadcrumb really helps absorb any of the fats that come out of the sausage to kind of suck up that fat that's in there and keeps it nice and consistent. So we're going to add that in there. Okay. We're also going to add 1 egg. So I always like to crack my eggs separately, just in case you get any shells into your meal. So I'm going to crack my egg. Okay. And because, just like I said, we have 1 little shell in there, we'll make sure we get that out. We're going to add 1 egg. Okay.
I like this recipe too because I think sometimes people don't know how to use, ground pork. So this is like something that might be outside the box. If you have ground pork at home, this is something different to do.
Definitely. Now, and we are using ground sausage, but ground sausage and ground pork are very similar. The only difference is sausage has a little bit more herbs in it, has a little more salt pre-made in it, whereas ground pork is a little leaner and has less of those spices. So you can add more of the spices you would like. Today we're going to add, just to pop it a little bit more flavor, we're going to add some fresh herbs. So I have some rosemary here that I ground up. Some fresh rosemary. We have some curly leaf parsley. My favorite in ground pork or sausage is fresh sage. Sage is one of my favorites. Definitely complements the flavor. And lastly, we have a little bit of thyme. So we're going to add some thyme. Now, St. Patrick's Day falls, mid-March, and spring is right around the corner. So this time of year always sort of remind me of like gardening and starting to get my garden going, watering seeds and things like that. Little known fact, you can actually purchase seeds or gardening seeds with your SNAP benefits. So if you do receive SNAP benefits, which is one of the things that we do here at the Food Bank is assist our neighbors with signing up for SNAP benefits. This is an item you can purchase, start your little garden. It doesn't take a lot of space. If you decide to grow fresh herbs to use as you cook, as you're cooking, they really do give you a nice little pop of freshness while you're cooking. So it's definitely something you can purchase. So we're just going to mix this again by hand. We can use a spatula, but a lot of times the best tool to use is your hand. It really helps you get in there, gets it mixed. That's looking good, Corey. Maybe we can go a little square, but
okay.
Looking good. All right, we're really just trying to incorporate all the ingredients in.
And you've made this recipe before?
I have made this recipe before. I learned this recipe from a person who was from Ireland, and she said this was actually her grandmother's recipe. So I borrowed her quick dough recipe and this filling recipe. It's a little bit of my mix and a little bit of what she had done historically. But she always said when she returned back to Ireland, this was definitely one of her favorite meals. One of the things about this meal too is, you can serve this as a full meal. You can make this as an appetizer. A lot of St. Patrick's Day parties are coming up, or you might be hosting. This is a good one where you can make it ahead of time. It can live in the fridge for about 2 or 3 days. Baked. You can also, after you make this, freeze the whole roll and save it for another day. So this should make 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut one of those in half. Cut that in half.
Borrow this knife.
Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my sausage combination here. I'm going to split it as evenly as I can. Again, it does not have to be perfect. Okay. And then we're going to just kind of spread this here in the middle. Does not have to be absolutely perfect. We will fix it. Now, if you feel like it's a little thick, it's okay.
I can smell all the herbs. It smells really, really nice in here.
Again, fresh herbs really do make the difference. So, and you can use dry herbs. That is also perfectly fine. It'll still give you that extra pop of flavor, but the fresh really do bring it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have our 2 rolls. We're going to take our dough here, and we are just going to make sure we can get it up here, and we're just going to fold it. And like I said, it does not have to be absolutely perfect. It can be a little rustic. And the longer you let your dough rest in the fridge, the easier it will be to maneuver. So as we get through, just fold it in nicely.
Yeah, I found rolling out the dough was not as difficult or challenging as I was thinking it was going to be. So if you're someone who's not, usually working with pastry, I wouldn't be so intimidated by the puff pastry recipe, because I'm definitely not an expert with this. So this was kind of new for me, and I found it to be okay. Looks good.
So we're going to take our rolls here, and just with the edge of a fork, we're just going to crimp the edges here, okay, just to help seal this up a little bit. Now, and then with this recipe, we are going to cut these into some pieces. For that, I'm going to transfer it over into my baking sheet.
Do you think that this might go paired well with a sauce of any kind once it's done?
Yeah, you could pair this with a sauce. Being sausage, it can be mixed with lots of sauces. An avocado sauce would be good. Even just a tzatziki sauce would go really well with it. You could really get creative. Also, you can add alternatives. So, if you wanted to throw some fresh green apple in here, that's a way to kind of, again, sneak some fruits in, sneak some things in on it. It does not change the consistency of it too much. Before we cut this, we also want to make sure we just put some ventilations in here. So poke it a few times with your fork. Okay. This helps aerate it as it's cooking, so it doesn't get too moist in the cooking process. And one of these rolls, you should be able to get about 20 to 24 pieces out of it. You're going to cut them to about 1 inch to 1.5 inches.
And the oven should be preheating at what?
So you want to preheat your oven at 375. Okay. And these will cook between 35 and 45 minutes. It does depend on the temperature of your oven. I know my Particularly my oven runs a little cooler, so I go a little longer with it. Okay. So we just want to separate them a little bit so they have their own space to kind of cook and aerate.
Breathing room.
Little breathing room, right. Okay, and then for today we will just do one of these rolls, okay, and we separate it. And then the last thing, just to help give it that browning, is we're going to do a little bit of an egg wash. So egg wash is very simple. It's one egg. You can either do it with water or milk if you have it. And again, we're just going to brush these lightly. Okay, that'll help with the browning as we cook.
How do you normally celebrate St. Patty's Day?
St. Patrick's Day at my house usually is, we might do a corned beef and cabbage. I know growing up, my mom one of the things she always loved to do was one of her favorite dishes was corned beef and cabbage. So that was typically we cook one of those up and have a good evening.
Nice.
How about yourself?
I think I might try this. I think this
Oh,
might be my
nice.
new.
Your new one. Good.
Yeah, this might be a new tradition.
Okay, and then we're going to take this and we're going to pop it in the oven, like I said, 375 for about 35 to 45 minutes until it's golden brown. So I'm going to go bring this over to our oven.
It's magic happening right now.
Okay, so in the magic land here, we actually will bring them out. They're nice and golden brown.
Looks so good.
Looks good. All right, Corey, want to give them one of these?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's grab one of these. All right. Happy St. Patrick's
Happy
Day.
St. Patty's Day.
Nice and crispy.
It really is, yeah. It's nice and flaky. So good.
Puff pastry's nice and flaky. And definitely rose. Delicious.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Thank you so much to Robert for showing us these Irish spring rolls. And if you would like more recipes like you saw today, please visit us at newjerseysnap.ed, newjerseysnaped.gov. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy St. Patrick's Day.